Hi there, it's Nicole, and today I am sharing this clear acetate card that's been stamped with some fun little snowflakes, and then there is a panel going across the center of it that has been stamped and masked and inked, all kinds of fun things to create this adorable little winter scene. These stamps are all from the September 2017 Sunny Studio release, and they're from the Polar Playmates stamp set. And these just totally spoke to me. You guys know how much I love little critters and creating scenes, so these were just right down my alley. I decided to create a panel with just the stamps and doing some masking. And obviously I did not stamp that very good, so I'm re-stamping this here. I like to lay out the stamps, and that way I know what's going to be in the foreground of the masked design. I went ahead and stamped the seal and the fish, and then I'll mask those, and I'll move on to the next image. One great thing about masking, and I have received some comments about this lately, people enjoying it simply because sometimes the coordinating dies might be a little out of our budget, which I totally get. This also is a great way to kind of go old school, I call it, where before we had the dies that coordinated, we did a lot of masking. Plus, if you are one that really doesn't like the white outline around your images, masking is fantastic for creating a really nice flat scene without those little white outlines. I have masks for everything here. Because I'm going to be doing some inking around this, and I don't want to get the ink on anything. This masking paper is from Simon Says Stamp, and it is fantastic. I had some different masking paper that I had been using, and I didn't realize quite how bad it was, I guess. I mean, it worked fine and well enough, but it really only worked for one kind of inking. And even at that, it was kind of iffy and would roll up at times. This works fantastic. It's super sticky. You can see some of my masks have already been used. I actually created this card once before and I boogered it up, so I had to start over. I reused my masks, and look, they are staying perfect. I'm going to take a little Post-it tape then and mask off what I want to be kind of the snowy or icy surface of the little lake here where my little critters are fishing. And up above, I am stamping this awesome new image called Frosty Flurries, which creates these little snow flurries everywhere. This is a teeny tiny little stamp set, but it is fantastic for building backgrounds. I love little dots like this for creating snow. So amazing and really great to use, and a good price point and everything like that. I stamped it with Versamark, heat embossed with white powder, and then applied Salty Ocean Distress ink over that. Rubbed the excess ink off of the embossed areas, and then peeled off my masks. I like to do all of that first, then peel off the masks, just so no ink gets onto those images. I'm going to color everything with Copic markers. You could color with colored pencils, other kinds of markers, whatever you like. The Copic marker colors I'm using are shown here across the bottom of the screen, and I have listed the image I'm coloring and then the colors I used for that. So I started with the seal. He's part of the sentiment that I'm going to be stamping here. The Polar Playmates has a whole bunch of fantastic greetings that you can mix and match to really create some really clever sentiments. The Igloo has some shades of blue, very light blue. Anytime it got a little too intense, I would use my lightest blue color, but then I would also use my colorless blender. It just kind of helped smooth out any harsh lines. I only want it to be tinted blue because I really want it to look like ice cubes. I'm also going to add some shading around all of my images with some of my lighter gray markers. helps kind of ground the scene finishes it off nicely. The snow on the top of the houses has a little bit of gray tint to it just to give it a tiny bit of color. There's really not a lot there. And darken the inside of my igloo. And then I'm going to go over the ice blocks with a Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen to make it nice and glittery. I really wish I had done this, but I didn't for this card. I probably will go back and do it now. Maybe I'll share the picture on Instagram or Facebook so that you can see it. But I think adding some snow to the top of the igloo would look really awesome. Meaning the product that you put on there, color on there, and heat emboss, and it puffs up and it really looks like snow. I think that would be really cute there. Either that or adding some glitter would be really fun too. So one of those things I think I probably will do now that I have seen the card and it's all, the glossy accents I applied is all dry. It's one of those things that sometimes you don't see right off of the bat, but you can always go back and add later. The water there, I colored a little bit deeper, darker blue, still in the same color family. I really wanted anything to coordinate nicely with that blue sky that I have there. Little pops of red, just a few, with the fishing pole, and then I will heat emboss some little hearts here in a second to go with the little red fishing pole and just kind of add to that. I like little pops of red. This is a lot of neutrals and a lot of blue. So the little yellow fish and the little red hearts and red fishing pole kind of help give those pops of color and add interest to the design. I colored the walrus just a tiny bit darker, still in warm gray shades, but just pulled in a few or a couple darker colors to darken him up. A white pin adds awesome detail. And then I'm going to trim this down. This card did not start off as going to be a card with an acetate card. I knew I wanted to trim this down into a thin strip, kind of a thin scene that doesn't take up the whole card front, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I originally thought I'd put it on a white card base. I tried matting it. Nothing was working for me. And then it just clicked and I thought I had some of these Hero Arts acetate cards. I hadn't done one in forever and I love how they're clear. So that's kind of how that all came about. I added those little water stamps from Polar Playmates with that Salty Ocean Distress ink. Adds interest to the water. I'm figuring out the placement of my greeting now, and I'm going to lay it out there. Before I stamp it, I did go in with a white pen and I started adding detail to my images. So some little white dots on the fish, little white dots on the seal, and I added in the little highlights in the eyes as well as the walrus tusks, because a little gray ink got in those, so I covered that up with this white opaque pen. Little things that you can do to add some nice detail to the images. I even added some little white detail to the water, kind of around the edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my greetings and emboss them. Because I already have some embossing on this, if I would stamp with a regular dye ink, part of it would sit on top of the embossed snowflakes and it could possibly get wiped off. It could smear. It wouldn't be legible. So the way I got around this, because I really wanted the greeting to go here, I felt like this was the best option for the greeting. It looked the best to my eye anyway. I decided to stamp the greetings with Versamark ink and heat emboss with a different color of embossing powder, in this case some silver. And it will show up nicely against the background. The silver color, I think, looks great with this particular, cold winter scene, polar type of scene. I'm going to use a powder tool over where I'm going to stamp this first. Help keep my silver embossing powder right where I want it to go. Ink up my greetings. and I'm going to ink all of them up at once. It's actually 3 different stamps. The Hoping You Have A is one stamp. Seriously is one stamp, which I think is so cute, a little pun on seriously. And Merry Christmas is another one. You can mix and match and make this work however you want to. I think it would also be fun. This isn't overwhelmingly a Christmas card. You could use the happy birthday greeting, and this could be perfect for someone who maybe has a birthday in the winter months. So really fun. There is my silver greeting. Now I want to add some stamped and embossed hearts. Again, just like with the greeting, I can't really stamp the hearts over the blue ink with a red ink and have it show up very good. It'll pick up a lot of that color. A pigment ink may work, and I could have tried that probably. I didn't really think of it at the time. Instead, I stamped the hearts with Versamark ink and heat embossed with some red embossing powder. And I have had this red embossing powder for years and years. I love it. It's just fantastic for stamping and embossing little hearts like this, or words, whatever it might be. But I love the little addition of those little stamped hearts. So I will emboss all 3 of these. And I kind of messed up the one heart, so I had to fix it a little bit. And I re-stamped it. I ended up re-stamping it. So I'll heat emboss the second one. Go ahead and grab my stamp again and stamp right over where I stamped it the last time. I'll reapply that red embossing powder and then heat set that. So this is the panel, the little winter scene, all finished, except for maybe just a few finishing details which really need to wait till the card is finished. This is the acetate card from Hero Arts that I'm going to stamp. Another new stamp from Sunny Studio. This is the Snow Flurries. So the little dots are Frosty Flurries, the snowflakes are Snow Flurries, and it's a single stamp, and it's these wonderful little snowflakes. I'm only going to stamp them along the top and the bottom using white Stazon ink. You're going to have to use an ink that will not smear on acetate. This is going to be perfect. That panel is going to go over that, so I don't have to worry about not stamping the whole thing. Plus, because it's a clear card, we're going to have to create some backers for everything, otherwise the adhesive will be visible. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my top panel first, and I decided I didn't want it right in the center. I want to shift it down just a little bit. So I'm going to line that up and adhere that. I'm going to open my card. So see how it's you can see all my Copic coloring through that panel. You can see the adhesive. That's really ugly and will really ruin the look. So I have cut another piece of cardstock to back the front panel. It is 3 inches by 5.5 inches, just like my little polar scene there. I will go ahead and adhere that right behind this one, and that way it gives it a really nice clean look on the inside of the card, and you don't see any of that ugly coloring, you don't see any adhesive, nothing like that. Then you're going to need somewhere to write your, sentiment to whoever you're giving this to. So I trimmed down a piece of blue cardstock to 5.5 by 4 inches and adhered it on the inside. Just like before, you want to back that so that nobody can see anything. That's a great place to stamp like handmade by Nicole. So very, very easy, and that finishes off the card beautifully. But that see-through panel on the front is just so cool and looks so neat. It's something I used to do quite a bit and I haven't done in a long time, and I really love the look. I'm going to finish the card with some glossy accents over the water and over the igloo. I think the glossy accents adds that perfect kind of icy touch or watery touch. A lot of times I like to add that to any of those kind of images. It will dry fairly quickly. I laid it flat, and I think ended up going and cooking supper and doing a couple other things, and it was well dry before that. So just a great way to add a finishing detail. I'm even going to go over the little hearts to make those nice and glossy. Even though they've been embossed, this adds just a little extra detail. Thanks for joining me today for this acetate card featuring a polar winter scene using the new Sunny Studio stamps. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring scenes that have been masked that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.